First World War. 16 millions died and 21 million were wounded. At the height of the carnage, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, David Lloyd George, had a private chat with the editor of The Guardian, C.P. Scott. If people really knew the truth, said the Prime Minister, the war would be stopped tomorrow. But of course they don't know and can't know. The British public were desperate for real news. More than half the nation flocked to see an official propaganda film, The Battle of the Somme. Cameras were so unusual that young troops would shout, "Hello, Mum," as they marched to the front. And they were heard crying for their mothers as they died on the battlefield. This was almost never reported.
That was John Pilger up front from his brilliant documentary, epic documentary, The War You Don't See. Go to johnpilger.com and see that film that took place at the very beginning of his film, and it's about World War I. And then the music, Silent Night there, is from a film, Oh, What a Lovely War, and it depicts a moment 114 years ago yesterday where there was a one-day kind of a truce between the Germans and the French and the British, first 4 months of the war, and they were all singing on both sides, and then they merged into no man's land, and they were drinking out of flask and passing beef jerky or whatever, knockwurst, I don't know, and that's that. And by the way, I'm Randy Credico. This is Live on the Fly. I'm taking the gloves off today. You know, this whole thing with the war in Ukraine, special military operation, the proxy war. I mean, there are people that I know that are still high on they got blue and yellow fever. There's yellow fever, but there's blue and yellow fever. They have no clue. They're supporting this proxy war. So they're in the same camp. They call themselves progressives. They're in the same camp with Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, General Kellogg, Tony Blinken, Tony Blair, and Kissinger, Dick Cheney. You're on that side, so you're really, those who support this proxy war, you are a neocon, okay? Let's not make any mistake about that. Today, we're going to try to cure you of blue and yellow fever. I'm bringing out the big guns, the big 200-millimeter guns, and that is Larry Johnson. You know Larry? Larry's from, he lives in Florida, I think. Larry is a former CIA officer, a former CIA analyst. He's a former counterterrorism expert for the State Department, and he runs Berg and Associates, and he's I think he's a professional model for Hawaiian shirts. I'm just kidding, Larry. And then Andrei Martyanov, Andrei the Great. Andrei is a former Soviet-era naval officer. He's the author of 1 million books, and one of them I just read again this morning, and that is Losing Military Supremacy. I got the list over here. Don't have them all in front of me, but they're here somewhere. But at any rate, these guys are the best political analysts, best on military affairs and military strategy, and so maybe they can assist us in trying to cure you of that blue and yellow fever. Now, we're going to play something. Last week we did an hour, actually a 2-hour show, a Christmas special. Larry Wilkerson was my special guest, and we had this song on. We played Ave Maria by what was her name? Aida I can't even pronounce it right now. At any rate, it's an Italian last name, and both me and Reggie and then Larry pronounced it wrong. She's not Italian. She happens to be Russian. She's from Kazan. Did you know that? All right. And
Seriously?
yes, her name's Ida Galafalani. That's it. That's it. And then, so I'm going to play this. This is a song called Russian Nights. Here, I got her again. Russian Nights, or Moscow Nights. It used to be called Leningrad Nights, and now it's called A Night in Moscow. And it's her with a great tenor by the name of Dmitry Stolsky. Andrei will get that right for me. But listen how beautiful this voice is, both of them. And we'll be right back with the dynamic duo of Johnson and Martyanov. Ida Garofalina. Now, I really can't pronounce for Stolsky. Am I pronouncing it right? Help me, please, Andrei.
Dmitry Khvorostovsky.
That's it. You got it right. You already
Well,
knew.
I got it. He is dead, actually. He has been. He's late Dmitry Khvorostovsky, great bass, actually, I believe. And he has been dead for like a few years back. So he had brain cancer, and he passed on.
Oh, he must have been a huge star in Russia because he's...
Well, not only in Russia. He was
around the world.
Star.
Around the world. All right. Listen, you got me on 4 counts here. All right. I plead guilty. I pronounced it wrong. He's not alive anymore. And he's a bigger star. I figured he was a big star around the world. I know Larry Johnson. You must know who he is.
No, actually, I've been introduced to him. Listen, I need to correct something you said. You said you're taking the gloves off.
Yeah.
You're in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Have you looked outside? Keep your damn gloves on. You're going to need it or you're going to get
Yes,
frostbite.
I know. I got frostbite taking a guy a sandwich yesterday up in, taking a guy a sandwich. Sandwich froze. I brought Reggie a little Christmas present. It was from Katz's Deli, and it was hot when I brought it, and now it's got icicles on it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you know what I mean when I say taking the gloves off here. I mean, what is going on? You know what I mean? What is going on? Why do people think that this guy, Zelensky, is Churchill, and Churchill really wasn't Churchill? Even that was a fable, all right? In fact, I don't know who killed more people. I think Zelensky's killed like 2 million of his own people, and he's coming to Miami tomorrow. I don't know what he's going to do there. If he's going to go, I mean, it's a great place to score cocaine. I know that, and there's a lot of hookers there. He might join them, be a male prostitute. But tell us about this guy, Andrei. Who Zelensky really is for my listeners who really think he's, God.
He's a moron. He's actually the stand-upper who played the piano with his member. That's the level of the humor, so to speak, he delivered for his Ukrainian audiences. And but then again, you have to understand when you talk, somebody thinks that he is new Churchill. First, Churchill wasn't that great to start with.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. So it's all crap, what promoted by the British, which is understandable. They were heroic people during World War II, but essentially it's the same hype about Rommel. He was just general, but obviously Monty and Churchill, praised him to heavens in order to increase their own, so to speak, weight. compared to what was happening on the Eastern Front. So it's all, and it was Churchill who basically bankrupted the United Kingdom. That is why he was immediately voted out of the, checkers. And so it's due to the Western elites, especially media, which are, this is not figure of speech. They are prostitutes. They just a matter of how much each of them worth, Then uncultured, ignorant people with agenda, and so as the result, they will continue to throw at public all kinds of the epithets and all kinds of the analogies, historical analogies. But what can I say? That's their level. That's whom they love. They are themselves like this. You have to understand. Average anchor from BBC and from MSNBC or CNN or even Fox, they would play piano with their dick if they have it, long enough and erected enough. And so in this case, there is no difference. They recognize their own. Right. As simple as that. Right. And that's who they are.
Yeah, I know. The promotion, MSNBC, Fox, and I don't watch them anymore. I did drop by and listen to one of these shows for like 20 minutes. I think it was Andrea Mitchell who had some, guy, I think the guy worked, I forgot who he's with. He's with NBC, and he was just, Simmons is his name. It was an infomercial.
Keir Simmons.
Yeah, Keir Simmons. Who is this guy? And Larry, all three of those networks are basically Pentagon CIA outlets, it seems to me. They never get people like you on the show or Andrei on the show or Ray McGovern on the show. Everyone's like James Clapper.
Well, that's why they don't have ratings.
Right, ratings. Right.
When you start looking at what's going on in the alternative media, podcasts, radio, the traditional media is no longer really relevant. People aren't watching them.
Right.
And that Keir
Simmons.
What's his name?
Simmons. Keir Simmons.
A forgettable person. I guess, he's like the MDC Moscow correspondent, has been for years. And in sharp contrast to Trump, who would, he would take a reporter like that would consistently ask him tough questions, call him names and insult them. Right. Putin doesn't call the guy names. He just, answers the question, and answering the question shows how stupid the guy was in asking the question.
Well, Andrei, there was an incredible, and he does it every year. I guess it's a tradition. I can't imagine any president in our history that would sit down for 4 hours, not only with the domestic press, but the foreign press, a hostile foreign press, and taking questions, Andrei.
Yeah, if you are a smart person, you can do it easily. You can, and especially listen. Many people still do not understand. They run with this, moniker, so to speak. Oh, you Putin is KGB. Well, I have news for them. Putin is SVR. It's a little bit different. So the first directorate, which is the Foreign Intelligence Service. And the guy didn't just graduate from the, higher school of KGB. He graduated from what is called KI in Russian, which was the Red Banner Institute, at that time named after Andropov. Today, it's the Foreign Intelligence Service Academy. These guys, they are taught there to literally, he was the second rank below the people who work actually deep undercover. They literally go native. You don't know them from Americans or Germans, Right. And so he can handle anything.
It's amazing.
These people are, they are taught not some kind of BS which they teach them in journalist schools. They teach them a lot of things which are also related to the control of the nerves. They can control actually sometimes their blood pressure if need be. This is how the training is done. And so, for him, they're kids, chicken feed, peanuts. So all of them, they are nobodies compared to him. I remember when Megyn Kelly, she thought that she's so hot looking, which she's not, by the way, but she in 2017 started to tell Putin about what he has to be and what he's supposed to do. And he said, oh, you now also about the specialist in the encryption. He was humiliating her on the stage. But because this is American journal, she's stupid. And she didn't understand how humiliated she was until probably later when everybody tells her that you were basically had yourself, the floor wiped with yourself. Yeah. She decided to go to Putin.
Crazy. I mean, Larry, it was astounding that press conference that he gives every year to everybody. I mean, can you imagine Trump or Biden or even Obama, or Bush or anyone sitting there for 4 hours, taking these questions, and they didn't bar anybody. They were all in there. BBC was there, NBC was there. They were all there. Larry.
Yeah, it was like an excessive Joe Rogan interview. It goes on and on and on. But he took it 4.5 hours, took every question, and wasn't having to sit and consult notes.
Right.
So he's able to speak extemporaneously and respond to the questions. There used to, when Fidel Castro was alive and well, he used to put on marathon sessions. He had a gift for gab. But the intelligence that Putin demonstrated in answering the questions. When you get Trump answering questions, he keeps repeating it. He could last 2 hours, but it would, if you sorted out the language where he said only. He didn't say the same thing over and over and over. You'd be down to about 45 minutes.
Yeah. How about 45 words? I don't think he reads. The last book he read was The Cat in the Hat, the Reader's Digest abridged version. And I want to talk about. I was supposed to do a television show today, not from here, overseas. Talk about Zelensky dropping into Miami tomorrow, and what's going on there, Larry? He's actually going to meet with whom?
Well, I think the Trump team's going to try to talk him into making some more concessions, but Zelensky's not going to be able to make the concessions that Russia demands as part of the preconditions to start negotiations. What we have to understand is it's not that they're already in negotiations. The negotiations have not started.
Right.
There are preconditions that must be made, and one of those is the recognition of Crimea, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, and Luhansk as permanent parts of the Russian Federation.
Right.
That's number one. So, and then there has to be an agreement on elections in Ukraine. They haven't done that.
They have not had an election now in like years. He's a dictator. They keep calling Putin a dictator. He was elected. He got 80% of the vote. This guy, I don't know what he got the first time he ran, but I don't think he could win again. Do you?
No.
Yeah. So he's got to have elections. But, Larry, he's not making any concessions. Andrei, why do you think he's not making any concessions? Is it because of, and I want you to talk about the Nazi influence, because people don't know that there are Nazis there, and there are Nazis in the EU. They just added one to the UK. The what's her name? The head of MI6.
Yeah. Mitravelli. Yeah, she is the Madame Mitravelli, who is not really Mitravelli. She's Dobrovolskaya, and she is the granddaughter of the Nazi collaborator. So it's normal for them. What can I say? There is a reality on the ground, okay? That's the only reality which matters. And whatever Trump does, listen, he is a laughingstock in Russia, okay? Let's be very clear about it. People laugh at him, they mock him, okay? Because everybody understands what he's trying to do. He's trying to do the trick which is impossible. He tries to present United States as some kind of in the arbitrage position. United States is co-belligerent. It's a part to the conflict on the side of Ukraine and actually main instigator of this whole tragedy. So no matter what Trump does, and Russians will, again, Russian diplomacy is the best in the world. Well, probably next after Chinese diplomacy nowadays, to pull the cat by the gonads. And they will be doing this negotiation, so-called negotiation thing, as long as it takes. And a long time ago, I wrote there, after the famous fable by Ivan Krylov, 19th century Russian fabulist, the article which was called Russia as a Cat. Russians will look at you, but they will continue to do what needs to be done. And evidently, people in the surrounding of Trump doesn't understand this. We know now for sure he doesn't have the toolkit. He only has this, what it's called, so-called intuition. But then again, definition of intuition is the educated guess. Trump doesn't have educated guess. He has the guess. Okay, and the sense, as they call it, he is definitely out of his depth in this game. And just a couple hours ago, there was negotiations, and Mr. Rybkov, Sergei Rybkov, first deputy of the foreign minister of Russia, said, yeah, there is no any progress on the, for example, resumption of the flights between Russia and the United States. That tells you everything you need to know. Okay, so for now, it's all posturing on the U.S. side, and as I already stated, only military decides what will be the outcome, and the outcome has been decided already.
Right, Larry, where are they? I mean, they're going to get another $90 billion from the EU. It's like one of the most convoluted packages I've ever seen that's going to them, and who's going to pay for that? And how much what can they do with it? Where's that? And they're giving it to a guy who's right smack in the middle of a huge corruption scandal that we've only seen not even an eye drop's worth. Larry.
Yeah, well, the promise of $90 billion is quite different from actually getting $90 billion. It's not even certain that the EU can come up with that money, because they want to borrow it, but they have to find somebody stupid enough to lend them the money in the first place. But, let's assume they get $90 billion. Then what? Then they get to spend it on some more weapon systems in the United States that don't work or work ineffectively on the battlefield in Ukraine. So this is, this is just an exercise in futility as you step back and look at it. The question I have is, who is really behind Zelensky? Because we spend so much time in the West talking about Zelensky as if he's the decision maker, as if he has the political power, as if he's the strategic thinker. He's none of those. As Andrei noted earlier, when Zelensky is playing the piano, he put the P in P,
Yeah, he did. Well,
but so who's behind him? Because his job, he is the highest paid actor in history, I think.
How much corruption how much do you think he's worth, Larry?
Well, all we know is at a minimum, $48 billion is missing.
$48 billion.
At least $48 billion. It may be as high as $105 billion. So that's out of $360 billion. So upwards of 1/3, or close to 1/3, has been taken. Now, I guarantee you, Zelensky didn't pull that all aside for himself and pay off a few buddies. He is doing this on behalf of some other people, some other very powerful people, but who are out of sight. Again, Zelensky's role is to raise money. He is to go and be the front guy to go out and convince everybody else to cough up some dough, send it to Ukraine. But there are, let's call them organized oligarchs.
Right. They're the organ grinders, and he's the guy with the little hat asking for money.
Yeah, he's the dancing monkey.
Yes. Well, $90 billion. And Andrei, they said that it's contingent. The bonds are going to be sold at high interest, contingent on Russia losing and paying reparations. I mean, that's beyond pie in the sky.
It's not the pie in the sky. They are right now, and sorry for being blunt, they're
Well,
soiling their pants because Europe bet the house on that. And this is impotent entity, European Union. Militarily, they are paper tiger. Their whole idea, because of the stupidity of the intelligence services, of their strategic, well, they don't have strategic forecasting as such. They don't have strategic intelligence as such. You can see yourself the actually complete degrading of the intellectual and expertise level of Europe and the United States too. But their whole idea was that United States will be the part of this whole package, and that eventually they will create those, sanctions, which supposedly will have the effect to a such degree that Putin regime will be, overthrown, and then you have all kinds of, people like nut jobs, which basically that's what West primarily cultivates as Soviet and Russian opposition, people who are not mentally adequate. And so they will put those guys and they will have access to the gigantic Russian resources and wealth. Well, the problem is, as I already stated, all those, kindergarten organizations like RAND or, even CIA, bloody forgive me, and all those, MI6 or Chatham House, those people have no clue, actually, what are they dealing with. Despite the fact I was warning for 11 years now, don't go there, you're going to end up really badly. They didn't understand that because obviously everything they know about the world outside since the end of the World War II was essentially confabulated history. It was all kinds of them. They were basically believing what they wanted to believe and not what was outside there. And as a result, we have this echo chamber, and as with any case with any echo chamber, well, the result is here. We can observe it now, and what can I say? They do not understand war as such. Okay,
yeah.
but
Yeah, well, what can you say? They don't understand war, but and the U.S. doesn't have the wherewithal itself. That we don't have the money, and I don't think we have
yeah.
the military power to do anything about it. You were talking. There's this new thing that Trump came up with yesterday, I think, about a golden fleet.
Oh, good
Andre,
lord! Oh, good
what
lord!
is the golden fleet, and when will it be ready?
It will not be. It's a wet dream as the Golden Dome too. It is because those people in the White House administration, they never graduated and studied physics or anything else, including systems integrations and things like of this nature. Or the physics which they studied was primarily physics written by the political science majors. That means people who do not have any science education. But Golden Fleet is the one up over other things. It's what I maintained the corporate solidarity with the U.S. military for a long time, for decades actually. I lost this corporate solidarity this year, and now it could be stated obviously, but Trump doesn't understand how he humiliates his own armed forces because it is met around the world with the Homeric laughter. This golden fleet never gonna get realized. The idea of those battleships is so preposterous that even U.S. Navy had to go out and do the clarification, quote unquote, that well, we're not even in the design phase yet, and
What?
usually it takes 6 years. So and by 2031 we might have the rendering and some kind of specifications on this battleship, or let alone 25 or 30 of them. By that time, Trump will be gone. And U.S. Navy here is a position of the Hajan Nasreddin, a famous character of the Oriental Fables, which says who about to be executed, but the Padishah grants him the last desire, last wish, and he says, "What's your wish?" He says, "I want to teach the donkey to talk." And they say, okay, and people ask him, okay, listen, how can you teach the donkey to talk? He said, hey, by the time everything happens, either Patishah will die or the donkey. So and this is exactly what is happening. It is it is biblical almost, in its scale of the sheer stupidity. It's like, I don't know, I really feel pity for U.S. Navy, which has a glorious history, and so for since World War II, it was the dominant naval force until Soviet Navy really expanded, especially 70s and 80s. But yeah, it was still dominant, but it's now obsolete force.
Yeah.
With the only thing which was correctly stated by none other than Trump himself. That's the only thing that, yeah, it's in the very rough shape, and operationally, it is the force which still has its roots in the World War II. Right. It's carrier-centric Navy, and carriers are nothing more than fat, prestigious targets. Right. Simple as that.
All right, Larry, hold on. I want you to riff on that, but I got to take a quick break here, and this is a song that you could hear on January 7th and probably yesterday as well in Russia. All right? Don't ask me where I found that, Larry, but I found a lot
Who was singing that?
I think it might
no,
be.
It's not Alexandrov's choir, but there was the choir of the Russian internal ministry.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
No. Trans-Siberian Orchestra is an American band. It's no. This is the choir of the Russian Ministry of the Internal Affairs. Oh, and they were doing this thing, including, by the way, with the Finnish band, Leningrad Cowboys and things like that. It's pretty famous, actually. Yeah, they were singing Sweet Home Alabama. You can look it up.
Well, maybe Reggie will, but I have another tune we're going to play shortly. But, Larry, let's get back to I actually want to talk about, because you keep, and so does Andrei, you both do, what is actually happening on the battlefield. Because I think this is going to go to the end. I don't have any faith in any negotiations. And it seems like Russia is like, they have no choice than to just finish the job. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of terrorist attacks coming from, the MI6. We know that the Ukrainian armed forces are not capable of, putting together these attacks on the eastern border of Russia. But there was 400 drones that were sent that direction just yesterday or the day before. Where is it, Larry? Where are we?
Let's go back to what Andrei was talking about, and I do encourage people to read his book.
I got him right here.
All of it, but the Losing Military Supremacy really lays out.
Can I just tell you all four of them first? America's Final War, Disintegration, the Real Revolution in Military Affairs, and Losing Military Supremacy. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, the case that he makes so persuasively, especially in the first book, is the complete disconnect in the United States between strategy, tactics, and national defense. So when Trump is talking about building up battleships, you got to step back and say, for what? I mean, apart from the fact that touting battleships today is like somebody advocating to put horse cavalry in World War II or in Vietnam. Can be beautiful animals, but they serve absolutely zero purpose on the battlefield because of the changes that have taken place technologically. That these ships, even the bigger they are, the harder they fall, they're vulnerable to the hypersonic missiles, which Russia has, which China has, which Iran allegedly has, and which so far the United States does not have. They They keep talking about it's in development. I actually know one of the people that's involved with that program, and I've heard him for the last 2 years promise that, it was going to be out next month. Well, here we are 2 years later, and it doesn't exist. So what's taking place on the battlefield now is that the Russian general staff, over the course of the last 42 months, they've been slowly building up the Russian ground force. At the outset of the war, back in February of 2022, I think Russian ground forces totaled active duty about 275,000. Today, in Ukraine alone, according to both Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian General Syrskyi, there are at least 700,000 Russian ground troops. Well, one of the reasons we've seen a dramatic acceleration in attacks along multiple axes of attacks this year is because Russia now has in place sufficient ground forces to conduct multiple operations in multiple locations. And they're doing this without mobilizing. This is why it's called a special military operation. They have not mobilized a Russian society for war. They are dealing with primarily a combination of conscripts, recruits. They did 320,000 mobilized reservists back in September of 2022. But right now, I looked it up, roughly about 6 to 7% of Russian GDP today is derived from the military activities. During World War II, that number was over 60%. Same for the United States. So that's the difference between being fully mobilized for war as opposed to a special military operation, which is being conducted in a constrained fashion so as to minimize Russian casualties and not stress out the economy to the point that you have to dismantle civilian industries in order to build military equipment.
All right. Now, I want to get back because we only have 20 minutes. Well, Larry, you're going to stick around, but Andrei's got to leave in 20 minutes for a few extra minutes. But Andrei, just give us a snapshot. Just to remind people how this war started. Everyone thinks it started in February by the Russians in 2022. You can go back to 92 or you can go back to 2014 and what they did in Donbass. Because I was there. They've killed 22,000 civilians there since that time. Just give us an overview in a snapshot, and then we'll continue talking about where they are now. Andrei.
I mean, it's in earnest in terms of the actual hostilities. Obviously, the Ukraine was shaped to be the NATO ram, so to speak, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, and even before that, especially when you consider how many Banderites have been actually implanted, or just simply by general articles on their own accord, so to speak, in Ukrainian government even during the Soviet times. And but in earnest, once the Crimea returned home, and obviously the Donbas republics very much wanted to join, despite the fact that Vladimir Putin actually asked them not at that time do the referendum. They still went ahead with referendum. So, and from 2014 it started. The Baltseva, all kinds of Ilovaisk, all kinds of things happening there. And they already have been committing some war crimes of unimaginable scale on the Ukrainian side, because they didn't you have to understand, those people in Donbas republics, they have been viewed as subhumans by Ukrainian central government. When they removed, of course, Yanukovych, which he was a corrupt guy, but at least he was elected, legitimately. And after that, 5 billions by Victoria Nuland and this, the cabal of the morons, they thought that they got Russia on the ropes. Well, the problem is that, of course, since 2014, and things started to really escalate, then there were all those Minsk 1, 2, 3, or 2 rather, basically agreements, which were nothing more than ceasefire to let the sides, especially the combined West, to regroup. after they have been defeated in the first goal. And it has to be understood that when Vladimir Putin says that, oh yeah, I have been, I trusted the West and I was cheated, and obviously he is playing the game. Reality is Russia needed time to uh, mobilize and to reshape the economy, which they did. That is why Russians were ready to go any kind of ceasefire at that time. And so, but yeah, by 2022, it was clear Russians have, if somebody doesn't know, the second largest, actually, the satellite grouping, and they have excellent human intelligence on the ground. That yeah, they were preparing this idea, that plan, and again, due to the military incompetence of Pentagon and those people, because they are incompetent, that yeah, let's get Russians, we will prepare for the attack. We will attack the Donbass. We will capture Donbass. Putin troops will go in. Then the West comes in, and we humiliate Putin. Soviet Union collapses because they still believe this fairy tale that Soviet Union somehow collapsed because of the Afghanistan, because they don't know of war. As I already stated, they don't teach real war in military academies in the West. And so, but instead of this, Russians forestalled that because it was clear that you need to strike first. And after that, we know the story. And again, before that, it was demonstration of force since the February 24, 2022, despite the fact that obviously the Russian Foreign Ministry issued the famous peremptory letter in December 2021, and which was essentially don't do it, because you're gonna get killed. And after that, the whole situation, because after the first decade of the first 10 days of April 2022, after the talks in Istanbul collapsed, that's when it became clear, okay, you wanted it, you got it. And
Yeah. Larry, what kind of shape is politically and economically, particularly Western Europe, but Europe in general, where are they? I mean, the UK and Germany and France are basket cases, and they've become totalitarian states. Can you tell our listeners what has happened to those three countries and a lot of the others there, like Poland?
Well, if you're over the age of 60, you grew up seeing Europe as a very special place. I mean, Europe was where the Industrial Revolution began. Europe was the heart of scientific and technological developments, particularly in the 19th century, and started extending into the 20th century, where the United States took over, and now China has replaced the United States in that regard. So, we go back 150 years. Europe was, if you will, the center of the world. They were colonial empires. Germany, the United Kingdom, France, hell, even the Netherlands. They all controlled territories around the world, mostly in Africa, to a lesser extent in Asia. The French, Indochina, as it was called, with Vietnam, Cambodia, and they were a powerhouse. Today, they're nothing. There is nothing that Europe produces that the rest of the world needs.
Right.
They're no longer a leader in science and technology.
Except for Airbus, obviously. Airbus is still there.
What about Krupp's coffee makers? That's about
What?
it from Germany. Krupp's.
But again, as Andrei points out, there's Airbus, but I'm talking about the difference between want and need. Nobody needs an Airbus, particularly now that Russia's starting to produce commercial airliners that I think in the next 4 or 5 years, you'll see Russia become a major player and actually potentially threaten Airbus. But militarily, they're a joke. Economically, they are, Germany is deindustrializing. France has got a debt to GDP ratio of 117%. The UK is now above 100%. None of their political leaders enjoys political support over 25%. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a mess.
What about
And
free
they think
speech,
that
Larry? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
They think they're going to, they got the wherewithal to threaten Russia. And again, they're mistaking the fact that Russia even cares about having a relationship with them. They don't.
Right. Yeah, and just speak with us for a minute about the absence of free speech and a free press in those three main countries, Larry.
Yeah, well, in England, they're locking up people for praying silently, I might add, praying silently outside abortion clinics. They're locking people up for protesting the Israeli genocide against the Palestinians. They've accosted, my friend George Galloway and his wife, Gayatri.
Right. And Craig Murray. Yeah.
Yeah, Craig Murray and other journalists. So
right.
They've, and as you mentioned earlier in the program, they've gone after Colonel Jacques Baud.
Yes, yes.
Who's a Swiss citizen but lives in Brussels, and now has had his bank account confiscated, and in fact is under threat that if anybody gives him money, the people that give him money would be under threat as violating sanctions. It's just this is a level of persecution that we never even saw under the Soviet Union, for God's sake.
Yeah. It's really bad there. You talked about it a lot the last couple of, by the way, it's Smoothie X12. You can see Andrei's great, and I watch you 4 or 5 times a week whenever you're on. You did a great Christmas one last night talking about the Golden Fleet and those combat kittens. That was cute. But Andrei, with Jack Boat, that is really something that is shocking to me. I mean, this is the EU. Does the EU have that much control, and who is controlling it? Because von der Leyen, who elected her, and where does she come from?
Well, nobody elected European Commission, obviously. It's a bunch of bureaucrats in Brussels, but many people missing the point. This is the thing which I'm being accused constantly that I have Schadenfreude moment and things like that. Europeans wanted it. It's just that when it became very uncomfortable due to factors Larry already explained, including the total deindustrialization, and there will be soup kitchens there. It's coming. Okay, Germany is already entering the first phase of Weimar Republic. It will be much worse. So, you probably didn't see, they have pole dancers now in the churches on the Christmas. This is the basically.
Wait! Pole dancers in the churches?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, prostitution and drug trade are officially counted in the GDP, gross domestic product of Netherlands and Germany. If you didn't know that.
Right.
So, and probably pedophilia will come in soon because that's the only thing they want to establish there. It is essentially the satanic playground. And fact is, as I already stated, why constantly talk about European commissions? Europeans agreed on that. They continue to elect those people. You could smell who they are. They reeked of the globalist nightmare miles away, but they've been electing them. Look at France, Holland, Macron twice. I mean, hello, you wanted it, you got it, just live with it. Yeah. And so that's what many people don't understand. And those are people of the honor, integrity, like Colonel Jacques Baud, number of other people who raise their voice, they will be put down. Again, I want to repeat the story of one of Russian member of parliament who have been at that time in the European Parliament. There are still Russian basically a delegation in European Parliament, and he was talking about this a few years back to all those people from France, Germany, what have you, and he said, guys, look what is happening. You're already heading towards a disaster. Your population doesn't like it, and it might explode. And the answer was shocking. They told him, we have enough dogs and police to put all this down. And that's what it is. It's a totalitarian, satanic playground. And so basically, the only thing which remains there, if you want to, by the way, to see where it is all heading, look up at how they changed the windows of the Notre Dame de Paris. They removed the old, which were undamaged windows, which were beautiful. And look up what they put on there, postmodernist crap there. Essentially, so yeah, that's who they are. And believe me, many of them support that. Many people do not understand that, oh, okay, yeah, we'll remove Macron, we'll remove Starmer, well, Starmer, British are kind of different people, but still, or we'll remove North and something gonna change. No, the only reason they care about changing anything is pure economics. They will continue to hate Russian gods as they did before. So it doesn't change. It's just a different mode of the hatred. They would love to hate Russians in the comfort and having the energy paid and lower, energy costs and decent standard of living. They're not going to get it. It's over for Europe. Many people do not understand. It missed by a mile the shift on the technological paradigm and the whole civilization moving into the extremely energy intensive civilization. And guess what? Europe has none. Simple as that. Right. So there you go.
There you go. Larry, talking about Russophobia, Russophrenia, basically there in Europe and even in the U.S., even to some of my listeners, they have it really badly. And I don't know where it comes from. Seriously, you've been to Russia many times. I've been there. I spent 17 days in Moscow and Rostov and then 7 days in very scared, believe me. I don't know how I got into it, but in Donetsk and city and down in Mariupol. They hate the Ukrainians there. They don't want them back there. They do not want them back in those cities, and same thing with Lugansk. So tell me, where does this? What's the genesis to you, and why is it so widespread and so, incisive? This terrible disease called Russophobia, Russophrenia.
Yeah, well, for starters, I recommend everybody go to Consortium News and read the article that Jeffrey Sachs wrote that was published yesterday, in which he goes into this in detail. And what he points out is that this has nothing to do with the political system that's in Russia today, nor is it grounded in hatred of communism or Bolshevism, nor does it have anything to do with the hatred of the czars. What he points out is that this extreme Russian prejudice, the prejudice against Russians and the animus expressed by Europeans, goes back really into the middle of the 19th century.
Right.
Predates the start of the Crimea War in 1853, 54.
Right.
And basically, it's a form of racism that the Europeans viewed the Slavs as basically subhuman, as not as good as them, and therefore they saw Russia, just because of its size, as a threat. And there was a memo written prior to the Crimea War to the Tsar from one of the military officers, in which he said, look, we try to take care of territories that are right on our border, and we get accused of imperialism, whereas the British, the French, the Germans are out ravaging the world in Africa, North Africa, and Asia.
Right.
And they insist that that's just part of the national order. It was just a complete contradiction, hypocrisy of the highest order.
Right.
But I think also a contributing factor today that makes the hatred of Russia even deeper is the return of Russia to its Orthodox Christian roots. It is such an affront to the West, who is busy rejecting Christianity, when you could make the case that the entire emergence of Europe and is sort of the central part of history of the after in the current era, so called, was it all revolved around Christianity. Even though the fact that throughout Europe the Christians were busy killing each other, you had Protestants killing Catholics, Catholics killing Protestants, and then the wars, World War I, World War II, where you had Christians lined up on either side murdering each other. Wasn't exactly a good argument for why Christianity was a religion of peace.
Right. Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, Russia doesn't have any bases on this side of the world. I mean, we have like 800 at least. And it costs a lot of money. We're $40 trillion in debt and counting. Let me get back to you because I know you have to leave in a few minutes here, Andrei. I've been reading this book. I brought it up the last time, The Brothers Karamazov. I'm finished with it. Again, it's a great translation. And the Fyodor Karamazov, the father, spends a lot of time in Odessa. And you really feel Odessa is really part of Russia. I mean, half of that country, is Russian. And how did they lose it? How did Russia lose Ukraine? Is Ukraine like this fabricated country?
Well, in some sense, actually, historic Ukraine is primarily around Kiev and Chernihiv, and there was obviously Zaporozhskaya Sich, which is around Zaporozhye, but the reality is they asked to join Bogdan Khmelnytsky. In the 17th century, he signed this famous treaty with Russia, and the point is that if you talk about what is called Malorossia, it is a creation of Catherine the Great, obviously, together with Crimea, which was Tavrida governorship, and all those great Russian cities like Odessa. Well, Odessa is not just a Russian city; it's also a Jewish city, and it was an incredible combination of the culture there. So, was really funny. Odessa humor is famous for that. But Odessa, Nikolaev, Kherson, these are all cities which have been created by Count Potemkin and Catherine the Great. But you have to understand, Russian history is written, as Larry correctly pointed out, it's written by the people who consider, for example, me, like Jack Clapper, James Clapper considers me subhuman. Okay,
right.
Because I'm Russian. Most of the European elites, they consider Russians subhumans. They always did, and so does majority of population. And so, in a sense, it's kind of they wanted it. They learned absolutely nothing from World War II, and that's the result. They're gonna die.
Right. You think they'd appreciate the fact that Russia and the Soviet Union, but primarily Russia, and that included Crimea and included Ukraine, because they were part of Russia for, like you said, since Catherine the Great. They won that war in the East. They won the war against the Nazis. You would think that they would say, thank you. Otherwise, a lot of people...
No. A famous phrase attributed to Marshal Zhukov. And actually, there is a reason to believe, because it was witnessed by a number of people. He was working with Marshal Rokossovsky in Berlin in 1945, reviewing the rubble of what was left of Berlin at that time. I mean, much was left, but the center, of course, was completely demolished. And people heard him saying, we liberated them from fascism, and they will never forgive us for that.
Wow. They have. There's a great statue in Red Square of Marshal Zhukov. And I know you have to go, and you got a lot of things to do. Once again, people, it's Smoothie X12 on YouTube, and Smoothie X12, your blog. What is it? The blog again?
Smoothie X12 at blogspot.com.
Yeah. Listen, you are a star, man. You're really wonderful, and we're going to play something special for you. All right.
Oh, God. Hey, brother, take care of Andrei.
Okay, Larry.
All right,
Merry Christmas, guys.
All right, we're going to play this for you. Don't go, Andrei, until it's over. All right?